This is Annapolis Week on MarylandReporter.com. I'm Len Lazarick, and with me today is Brian Sears of Patch.com. Today we're talking with House Republican leader Tony O'Donnell. Thanks for being here, Mr. Leader.
Good to be with you. Good to be with you today.
There's no way we can talk about the coming week without the issue that's probably going to dominate discussion, and that's gay marriage. Your caucus, there's going to be a House hearing on it. The Senate is going to have a lot of talk about it, but your caucus has already taken a position. What is that?
Yeah, we've taken a position, a very strong position, to support the existing law that marriage should remain between one man and one woman.
Does that mean that the caucus is supporting Delegate Dwyer's bill that would make that a formal part of the state constitution?
Some of our members will, but our caucus's position in terms of the broader issue is only taken on to support marriage as being between one man and one woman, or currently.
And the Senate President has predicted yet again today that even if this passes the House and Senate and the governor signs it, that it's going to go to referendum. Do you believe that so?
I think that's right. If it were to pass, if it makes it through the legislative process, as many are predicting that it will, I believe that the general consensus is it will go to referendum. Of course, there's a lot of hurdles between here and there. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have to make it through this long and torturous legislative process.
It can be amended on the floor. They have to get 24 votes. It comes to the House. The whole process goes through. Lots of things can happen before it actually gets to the governor's desk.
That's exactly right. And then even after it gets to the governor's desk, there's a signature gathering process and verification process. There's likely to be large campaigns, public campaigns about it. But the fact of the matter is that we're talking about something here that transcends partisan politics. It transcends 400 years of Maryland's legislature meeting. It transcends thousands of years of humanity. And so it's something that is very, very important to many, many people on both sides of the issue. And it's not something that we should view as whether or not the legislature at the drop of a hat through 1 3-month period can pass a bill and put it on the governor's desk in order to change the definition. It's been broadly accepted throughout humanity, throughout history, as marriage being between one man and one woman.
Switching gears, because obviously same-sex marriage is not the only issue you folks are dealing with. This last week you took a position, the caucus took a position on the health care reform. Could you describe that briefly?
We have. As a matter of first principle, we believe that Maryland is advancing implementation of the National Health Care Plan in a way that may put our citizens and our budget at risk. What am I talking about? Of course, 2 years of debate with the Obama health care initiative, a lot of national debate and fighting about it, and of course, now the states are grappling with what that means. But before we spend a lot of taxpayer dollars, whether it's federal dollars or state dollars, it's still all taxpayer dollars. Before we rush headlong into creating larger bureaucracies, new cabinet level positions, all of the stuff that they want to push forward with now, we have to make sure that we're even going to have this bill. And we believe that there are two major national issues. One is the judicial issue in the courts that need to be resolved, and the other is whether or not there's going to be funding and whether or not the funding will continue to implement this. If the state is to push forward, create all these new positions, bureaucracies, set up all this stuff, and then we don't have funding for the bill, or the courts strike it down as unconstitutional, we will have wasted scarce taxpayer dollars. We have plenty of time to do this. No other state is rushing ahead as rapidly and as fast as Maryland. Maryland needs to feel some obligation to give the president some solidification of his position by rushing this through. And we're saying, let's be cautious here. Let's slow down a little bit. It's prudent to slow down and take a measured approach to this. Let's see what happens in the courts. Let's see what happens with funding. Let's see what's going to happen before we go headlong rushing to implement this thing for political reasons.
And while all this is going on, we still have lots of talk about taxes, gas tax, alcohol tax. We can sort of imagine what the position of the Republican caucus is, but perhaps you can articulate it briefly.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's a push to raise 2 taxes in the legislature. There may be a push to raise others, but you know, one is the alcohol tax, one is the gas tax, as you said. We need to look at the broader context of the economy. Gasoline, for instance, is at $3.05, $3.10 a gallon heading north. At any particular moment, the gas price could go very, very high, could go to $4 or $5 a gallon. That could be devastating to our economy. A gas tax, in my opinion, will be recessionary, and it will help slow down Maryland's economic recovery, and that's not a good thing, one. Two, people are having a hard time paying their electricity bills, their gas bills, their food bills. They're having a hard time making ends meet, paying their higher taxes. We passed massive tax increases onto them in 2007 already. People are struggling, and the government should not cavalierly say, we're going to also raise your gas tax. They sell that on that money going to fix roads and bridges and highways and fix the gridlock problem, which is a real problem. We acknowledge that. But we already have dedicated revenues going to that, and those revenues have been rated. We have license registrations, current gas tax, all the other things.
Well, that's why there's also a bill to have a constitutional amendment that you can't do the rate.
But there's no guarantee, because that constitutional amendment can't even be taken up until 2012. Why pass the gas tax now with a promise of maybe someday you won't be able to rate this? They're going to continue to rate that money. It's not going to go to transportation. It's a false promise. And we have ample evidence of that. We're not just making that up as a possibility. They've rated every other pot of fund and every other dedicated revenue source to go to the general fund, and we still can't pay all our bills. So there's no doubt in my mind that both the alcohol tax and the gas tax will be rated and will not go to what they're being sold on, as in so many other instances, like when we passed through slots and we said all that money's going to go to education, and we passed the lottery and we said all that money's going to go to education, and we passed the transfer tax and said all that money's going to go to program open space, or we passed the flush fee and said all that money's going to go to upgrading our wastewater treatment plants. Every single one of those examples I've just given you have been rated and gone to other purposes.
Thanks for being with us, Delegate O'Donnell. Brian